Welcome to another episode of Under the Strap. I'm your host, John Rathouz, and Billy Foster is on the podcast. He's on the Mount Rushmore of caddies. Such a good storyteller, and currently caddying for Matthew Fitzpatrick, the number 15th ranked player in the world, fresh off his best finish ever in a major, and a sneaky good pick to win the U.S. Open this week, where he won the 2013 U.S. Am. In fact, we start off by talking about Matt's cack-handed chipping, and you'll get used to Billy's English accent as we go. 40 years caddying for Billy. He's worked for Seve, Darren Clarke, Westwood, Sergio, and Tiger Woods, many others, and they're all ranked on his scale of psychopaths. He hangs his hat on his honesty, and it's done him well. Got him a lot of jobs, lost him some too. He has a great story of the final straw between him and Seve at the Masters one year. And my favorite story he tells about how he got Tiger out of a shitty situation at the Ryder Cup. That got him the job for a week at the President's Cup a few years later, and what he told Tiger that Tiger appreciated. He details his favorite caddy memory working for Darren Clarke at the Ryder Cup 6 weeks after Darren's wife passed away. We get into Brookline. He was there in '99, chat about St. Andrews, side of the Open Championship later this summer. Wait till you hear how many greens he thinks Bryson can drive at the home of golf. And you won't believe who he says is the best caddy he's ever seen. It's a current player who he's caddied for before. It was a privilege. Billy Foster. Enjoy. This Under the Strap podcast is presented by Therabody. If your muscles are sore or tight, help them relax with the Therabody Theragun. The #1 massaging tool on the market and incredibly easy to use, the Theragun is designed to help you play longer and get more out of your body. So do what caddies and players on tour do and treat your muscles. Go to therabody.com/caddy, CADDIE, to get your Theragun today, starting at just $199. Now it's time for another episode of Under the Strap. All right, joined now Under the Strap by legendary Billy Foster. Thanks for taking some time out, man.
Pleasure, John. Pleasure to see you at last.
Yeah, I know. It's been a while. We've been texting a little bit. Hey, and since we texted last, how about your boy Fooch rolling off a win there with Horschel?
Yeah, lucky bastard. Life in the old dogs yet. Life in the old dogs yet.
Did you go out and have some beers with him on that one?
No, I was en route to Canada already.
Gotcha.
My man putted like Edward Scissorhands last week and managed to miss the cut by a shot. So, not like him. He's normally pretty good, but he was 4th tee to green and DFL dead fucking last in putting. So not like him.
I saw the putting. The putting was shocking. I'm sure it was even worse up close in person.
Yeah, it wasn't his best week, but this week's another week.
Yeah, exactly. And your man's been on a bit of a heater this calendar year. I mean, 6 top 10s. He's got in 11 worldwide events and best finish ever at a major there at Southern Hills, T5. You guys were in the mix there. He's world rankings up to 15th. I guess what's working for him at the moment?
Listen, he's probably put on 20 yards in the last 18 months, which helps a lot. He's got his swing speed up like 5 or 6 miles an hour, which for him's huge, because he's still pretty accurate. And he started chipping cack-handed. I'm sure Seve Ballesteros would be turning in his grave watching somebody chipping cack-handed. But, I mean, John Ram made a comment last year saying, similar thing, Seve would be turning in his grave looking at this. But he said it's unbelievable. And his chipping's improved so much. I just think he feels as though he doesn't cut across the ball as much and wipe it. And it's on the club face longer. He feels as though he's got more control. And, yeah, he's been chipping really well this year. And that's the difference. He's scrambling well and he's driving it longer. So. And he normally puts well, so he's adding up to being very consistent. Very consistent, eh?
You've seen Seve up close and personal, and then you see Fitzy going cross-handed now. That's a great comment. When did you start with him, with Matt?
The end of 2018.
So yeah, and then I guess I looped with you there that week at RBC in 2019. So you had just kind of been on with him. What's that like for you, being kind of the experienced looper out there? With kind of he's also an experienced guy too, but he's obviously younger.
Yeah, listen, all guys are different. They're all different scale of psychopaths, aren't they? Let's face it. And on the scale of psychopaths, he's actually refreshingly quite normal, which is quite nice, But yeah, I mean, I've had, this is my 40th year caddying 4-0. That is, there's a lot of There's a lot of scar tissue in there, and Clint Eastwood movie, The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly. You've seen it all, So yeah, I can bring things to the party for Matt that I've learned off other players, like Seve or Lee Westwood or Darren Clarke, or Sergio Garcia, or it's there's certain things that you see with every player that's a weakness. So I'm always very honest. I tell them what I think. Sometimes that's why I get sacked, but there's no point in saying everything's good and everything's lovely jubbly in the garden, but sometimes they don't want to hear it. But if you're going to succeed, you need to listen to constructive criticism sometimes. So yeah, I've said a few things to him, and he's improved certain departments, and he's getting a really consistent player. He's jumping the world rankings a lot quicker and faster than I thought he would. But and I look at it now and think he can break into the top 10, I believe. So pretty surely the way he's going.
You mentioned 40 years though. Who do you remember? Who and where was your first pro loop?
I caddied for a Swedish guy called Mats Lanner in 1981. Was when I was like a 15-year-old junior. There was a tournament at my home golf club, and me and a few friends decided to travel around Great Britain to caddy at a few other events. And I ended up working for Tony Johnston from Zimbabwe, who commentates on the Golf Channel in Europe. And he was a bit of a nutcase, and then I've gone on to work for different, you look at him, I mean, Gordon Brand Jr., I did a couple of Ryder Cups with him. He was a feisty character. Seve Ballesteros, 5 years with him, say no more. Thomas Bjorn, if he wanted to golf, he'd be a serial killer, another psycho. Darren Clarke, I used to do everything but hit the golf shot for him. Lee Westwood was refreshingly normal. Sergio Garcia, he was feisty to say the least. He always used to put his spikes on, but his spikes were on the inside. Always angry man, so... And Matt's professionally normal, and I fortunately had the opportunity to work for Tiger for 1 week at the President's Cup when Steve Williams, his wife, was having a baby. So, yeah, it's been a great journey. But I'll tell you what, there's been some changes in that 40 years, John. When you think, when I first started out, there's no yardage books, no lasers. You had to walk the golf course with a trundle wheel and do your Picasso, drawing your own yardage books. There was no range balls, so all the caddies used to stand out in the range. You got 30, 40 guys hitting balls, and you're getting hit from other players. There was no clubhouse, there was no food. You could never afford to get on an aeroplane, so you had to go on trains and buses for a day or maybe 2 days sometimes. Sleep on trains. Used to sleep in tents. Slept in a bush one night at the side of the freeway. You couldn't afford to stay in decent hotels. You'd have to walk the streets with your suitcase, knocking on doors to see if there's any room at the inn, like Mary and Joseph. It was no money to play for, no credit cards, no telephones, no internet, no sat nav. Get your map out, getting lost everywhere. It's a completely different game, In fact, there was one tournament at Sun City. I was caddying for Seve, and obviously there was no lasers there, and it was a par 3 over the water, the 4th hole. And they used to play off a front right tee. So obviously I had to get a yardage. I'm out there with my trundle wheel, and it's like down through this jungle, abseil down the cliff, through all this forest, over the water. And it took me an hour and 15 minutes to get 1 yardage. I've got this piece of string tied on a tee peg at the back of the tee, and I've had to abseil down this cliff. Things are rustling around me. I've got the string through all the trees, over the water, snipped it off, got my yardage reel out, measured it off. 162 yards, whatever it was. It took me 1 hour, 15 minutes. And then I found out the next day I'd walked through the middle of a snake pit full of cobras. It's like, man, you can't describe to the lads these days how lucky they've got it. It's amazing.
Amazing. For sure. And that's hilarious too, because these days, you zap that thing and you've got it in under 5 seconds. I hope they played the tee that week too. I've certainly gone out and walked.
I don't think they did.
You didn't need that number.
No, I don't think I did. No.
That's hilarious.
You're looking at the Billy Horschel last week. I don't know. I'm guessing. Did he win over 2 million? I guess he did.
Well, maybe.
Yeah, maybe 2.3 million. But so you're looking like a couple of $100,000 there for the caddy. When I first started, a caddy for Tony Johnson in Portugal. And bearing in mind, I couldn't afford to get on an aeroplane, and I had to go on a train for 2 days, stay in an absolute shithole hotel. Rats had come in and run out because it wasn't good enough for them, And he finished 7th in the golf tournament. Great. Top 10 finish. Right, do. He won $1,000. And I got 5%. There were none of this 7.5%, 8%, 10%. I got 5%. He finished 7th in the golf tournament. I got $50 percentage money. And you had to make your own way to Portugal.
Yeah, yeah. But you're. I mean, everybody that does this for a living, like, really is enticed by the adventure. I mean, even today, there's still some adventure. It's a lot easier to get around. But was that the main draw for you? Was it just to travel the world and to figure out how to get from point A to point B, or was it more about being inside the ropes on the golf course?
Yeah, for me personally, I was like a 16, 17-year-old kid, and I did it to travel Europe, see different cultures, different countries, but to learn more about the game myself and make my own game improve, which I did, and I was only going to do it for a couple of years, and I did about 7, 8 years, and I was gonna finish. I told Gordon Brown Jr., who was working for, I'm going to give you 6 weeks notice. I'm going to finish at the end of 1990, And I accepted his job as an assistant professional at one of my local clubs in Yorkshire. Nice club. And about 3 or 4 weeks before I started the job, Seve Ballesteros asked me to work for him. So it was assistant pro Seve Ballesteros. It was like, no brainer. So yeah, my life changed after that, because obviously, if you did 5 holes with Seve, if you lasted 5 holes with Seve, you were doing well. So to last 5 years, it did my reputation a lot of good, and I've been fortunate to go from good job to good job. So I've been pretty lucky, really.
Yeah, no, that's great. Very serendipitous there to jump on his back at that moment. What was it like caddying for him?
It was a proper roller coaster, because obviously I got the last 5 years of him playing decent. He wasn't the superstar that he had been in the 80s. But I still won 8 tournaments with him, some good tournaments, the British Masters, the European PGA Championship. He won the Chinuchi Crowns in Japan, he won in Dubai, he won some good tournaments, but it was very up and down. It was like, he had one run where he won in Japan at the Chinuchi Crowns. The following week, he got beaten in a 7-hole playoff at the Spanish Open. The following week, he won the PGA Championship at Wentworth. And the week after, he won the British Masters at Woburn. So he went tied first in 4 weeks. And then proceeded to play like me for the next 6 months. He could hardly break 80. Absolute shite. And then he played well again for 2 or 3 months. He actually won the money list that year in 91. And then he came out in 1992, and he won 2 of the first 4 tournaments in Dubai and Spain. And then again, he could hardly break 80 for the next 6 months. And then he won again at the end of the year. It was crazy. It was very much up and down. But he was suffering terribly with a bad back. And to me, what happened with Seve in the end, he went away from being the most naturally gifted golfer possibly of all time, seeing shots and shaping shots, the imagination. Every time he was in the trees, he'd pull it off every time, like brilliant shots. And he started getting very technical and working, we'd having lessons off every, it'd be David Ledbetter 1 week, Butch Harmon the next, Mac O'Grady the next, somebody else the next. And he just got so tied up in, probably from the success that Nick Faldo was having, getting very technical. And Seve thought maybe that was the route he needed to go down. And he went away from seeing the shot and being very natural to, struggling with positions of his swing and getting all technical and getting his mind confused. And it was very up and down. But the good, like I say, it was the Clint Eastwood movie. It was the good and the bad and the ugly with Seve, And there's some brilliant times, some fantastic victories, some unbelievable arguments. 95% of the time I loved him. 5% of the time I wanted to headbutt him. And
what's one argument that comes to mind that,
Well, we played. We got on the first. This is the argument that ultimately finished our relationship. And we got on very well after that. But it happened at the Masters. And he used to have this STX putter, and it used to have like a little bullet out the back of it, and it had like a carbon face. And it had a graphite shaft with a bit of a offset carbon shaft. And we're walking to the first tee at the Masters, and he said, "Billy, pass me the towel, eh?" So I pass him the towel, and he's now on the first tee at the Masters, rubbing the shaft, not of his, what you think, rubbing the shaft of his putter.
It's quite a public place.
Putter, thinking he can warm the shaft up and then he can bend it a little bit, because he thought it was like a degree too flat. So he's rubbing the shaft, trying to get it hot so he can bend it. Well, this thing snaps in half, and Seve's on his knees already. As it snaps in half, he falls forward in his face, hits the turf on the first tee at the Masters. Well, I've set off screaming, laughing. I'm screaming, laughing. Lazabal's there. He's crying his eyes out, laughing. And Seve's turned to me. "Oh, you think it's funny, eh? You're son of my bitch. Why you laugh at me? This is a Masters and da. Now he's chewing me out for the next 2 holes. Now he sent Mac O'Grady to get a spare putter. Mac, go and get the spare putter from the locker. But the grip's on crooked, so take it to the pro shop and get a new grip and bring it to the second green. Because it's going to be half an hour at least to play the first 2 holes." So Mac's got the spare putter, put it in the vise and twisted it, and it snapped in half. Oh my God. And all I can see, when you're on the second green at Augusta and you're looking up towards the clubhouse, all I can see is crazy Mac running down the hill going, and I'm like, and he's got the head in one hand and the shaft in the other. I'm like, oh my God. Well, Seve's never stopped giving me abuse the whole 16 holes that was left. "How you think it's funny now? You're son of my bitch," and all this and that. Oh, like, just chewed me out. And I was shaking at the end of the round. I was borderline. Put me in a padded cell with a straight jacket. I'm gone, So he sent me to the range, and now he's hitting wedges down the range, and I'm shaking, and they're bouncing, and I'm heading the ball, every one of them. One bounce, bang! I headed like 15 balls in a row. "Billy, come in," and he's like waving me in. "What is up with you? Are you crazy or what?" And I'm like, "No, I need to speak to him," because I'd gone. I was shaking. And we went round the side of the clubhouse at Augusta, and I just unleashed this 5-minute tirade of abuse, calling him in every peg to a dog, like every C word, B word, F word I could think of. He got it all. And he's like, "Jesus Christ, I never have anybody speak to me like that. I love you like my brother," and all this. I said, "Well, I don't want to be one of your brothers, and do I?" Yeah, tosser, anyway. So anyway, we went out on the golf course, and we got to the 17th, and it was the back left pin, and we're playing with Ray Floyd. Steve Williams is caddying for Ray Floyd, and it's the back left pin, and Seve's saying it's a 7-iron. I'm saying, "No, Seve, that's going to finish on the front of the green. You're going to have that put over that hog's back and down." And I say it's a 6-iron. So it's a 6-iron. It's a lovely shot. Just runs past the hole, and it just dribbles off.
Not a bad spot. Not a bad spot.
Great spot. We're talking Seve Ballesteros here, one of the best chippers in the world. I mean, he's got an 18-foot chip straight back up the hill.
Yeah.
Chips it 6 foot past. And I'm on my hands and knees at the side of the green. Please, all please. But a golfer never gets a caddy out of jail, does he? He's always going to miss it. Sure enough, he misses it. Well, he has a go at me. Why I listen to you? You're the worst caddy ever. Why I listen to you? You useless son of my bitch. You're the worst caddy I ever have. Why I listen to you? So then Ray Floyd's put it out. He's giving me again exactly the same lecture. I'm like, oh. We walk off the green towards the 18th tee. He stops again. Why I listen to you? That's the worst club I ever have in my life. It gives me again, walking through the gallery towards the 18th tee. Now I'm gone again. I'm like, he's driving me mad. And we get to the 18th tee. I thought, if he has another go here, I can feel the volcanoes building up. I'm here. And he stops on the 18th tee. And he has another go at me. And I shouted so loud on the 18th tee. Ray Floyd's gone. And Steve Williams gone. He's had another go again. I can effing hear you, all right! They could have heard me at the clubhouse, eh? And Seve's looked at me and he just stormed off. And when we got to the clubhouse, that was it. Put the bag away. And I left the Masters, and I got home on the Tuesday morning back in England, and the phone was ringing as I opened the door, and it was his manager saying, "Billy, thanks for your time, but
Right.
no mas," as Roberto Duran would say, "no mas."
Yeah.
Seve's finished with you." So
Yeah.
and
That was a good
he asked
run.
me to come back about 6 weeks later. He asked me to come back, but I'd moved on with Darren Clarke then, who was 25, 26-year-old up-and-coming player, and I could tell Seve was pretty much done. So
Yeah.
it was time to move on, but I always remained very close to him. It was I had a lot of great times with him.
Well, you mentioned also Tiger, and I know you had the loop with him there at the President's Cup, and I love sharing your. Maybe you'll indulge me with the Tiger story from the Belfry, because I'm wondering is that how you maybe got the job with Tiger? Do you think
listen? It's 100% how I got the job.
It is okay. So can you please retell the story?
So yeah, it was the Ryder Cup at the Belfry 2002, and it was the first match, first morning. Darren Clarke and Thomas Bjorn playing the Golden Child, obviously Tiger, and Paul Azinger. So it's 15 minutes before tee-off. And I said to Darren Clarke, I said, "Darren," I said, "the old flock of seagulls, the nerves," I said, "I need to go for a Tom kite," which, sorry Tom, but it's rhyming slang kite for shite. So I'm off to the restrooms for a number 2. So as I walk in there, Cubby's in there, who used to work for Davis Love. Mm-hmm. Morning, Cubby. Morning, Billy. So I sit down, trolleys round my ankles, just about to give it the full thrust, morning glory. Look across, oof, full reverse, no toilet paper. Whew, close call. Cross the corridor, trap 2, sit down. I look behind me, there's about 20 rolls of toilet paper behind me. Happy days. Next minute, spikes on the bathroom floor. Morning, Cubby. Morning, Tiger. Bang. Trap 1 where I've just been. And I'm like, I'm thinking 6 minutes to tee off at the Ryder Cup. And I'm like, oh, Tiger, that's not solid. That's chaos right there. And I thought, I'm using the excess toilet paper now to dry my eyes because I'm crying that much, laughing because Tiger's just about to finish his morning glory light and there's no toilet paper. And I've just got a vision of him walking up the fifth hole like John Wayne that's just got off his horse, bow-legged. And I thought, I hear this little sigh, I thought, he's realised. I thought, I can't do it to him. So I walked back, rolled off about 20 sheets. I got down on my hands and knees, went under the toilet door, and I went, "Whoever's in there, you might be needing this." And as I walked out, I went, "You're up, 1 up." Walked out. And sure enough, Clarke and Bjorn beat and 1 up. And but Tiger came out with the biggest smile on his face. I just said, "Tiger, was you owe me big time?" And he went, "Billy, I owe you big time." And that's why I got the job for the President's Cup, not because I'm a good caddy.
Right. So that's I love that story. And what was that like caddying for him? I guess, just because it's different. You were paired with him. You saw his game. I mean, people watch him on TV, but then when you're actually caddying for these guys, you just get a little different glimpse of it. Did it humanize him more, or did it make him even greater in your mind when you saw it in person?
Yeah, I just wish I could have done a few tournaments with him. I'd have loved it. And it's like I said to him that week. You're walking through the crowds, and it's just mind-blowing how deafening, and he's getting his shirt pulled, pen marks all over him, hats on sideways, Tiger, and you're walking through a gauntlet, 10 deep, 200 yards long, and I'm like, wow, get me out of here, my ears are bleeding, I'm just thinking, this poor sod has got to put up with this every day of his life. He's got to go to a restaurant, can't sit there and just cut into a steak and have a bit of peace. There's always somebody wanting a picture, selfie, autographs on a napkin, whatever it is. It's like, just give the lad a break. But there's 2 things. He had impeccable manners, which I try and instill in my children, and I thought, fair play to you, Tiger. Everything was please and thank you. They were brilliant. But the one thing I did say to him that week, we got to the first tee, and it was deathly quiet. And I just said, you know what? That's the first time in about 15 years that I felt that aura about a golfer. And the only other guy is Seve Ballesteros. But I'm telling you now, and I said it to Seve, you might be a billionaire, you might be of any woman in the world, and you might go down as the best player ever to play the game. But I won't swap your lives. And they were like,
Yeah.
He got it. And he was sort of like, yeah, thanks, Billy, somebody gets it, you know, and it's like, that's why I love him so much, I appreciate him so much. And every golfer out here now should have a portrait above the mantelpiece at home of Tiger Woods and bow to him every morning, because he's made all of you millionaires, even the caddies owe him everything. Been an absolute legend. And if it weren't for his injuries, you know, and various things, you know, he could have played left-handed the last 10 years and he would have won 25 majors. To me, he's the best that's ever been doing handstands, you know, but unfortunately, he's suffered badly with injuries. And you know what? I still think he'll win. Yeah. That's how strong he is. I still think he'll win.
Yeah, it was a different version of him even than his first comeback the last time there when I saw him playing at the Masters this year.
Listen, to come out this year and play 2 tournaments, both major championships, having, you know, could have been in a wheelchair for the rest of his life with one leg, like, you know, and he makes both cuts. I mean, that's incredible. I mean, you can't expect him to win. But I'll tell you what, give him a couple of years, he could win.
Yeah, for sure.
I really believe it. Yeah.
Yeah. A quick break here at the turn to tell you more about the Therabody Theragun. I got mine last summer. It's part of my daily routine, and my body has never felt better. I use it before and after caddying, playing golf, working out, or even relief from being hunched over chasing our 1-year-old. It's so easy to use that I like to use mine while I'm watching TV. And like a lot of you, I'm traveling again soon, so I've got the Theragun Mini ready to go. Pumped about that. It's a space saver in your luggage, and the most popular one with caddies on tour, so I can't recommend it enough. All right, let's get back to the podcast. Well, when you look back, what's your greatest win that you've been a part of? What one comes to mind first?
You know, if you say what's my special memory of my 40 years career, I mean,
yeah,
you know, the one thing that grates me a little bit is, you know, on 5 or 6 occasions, you've been right there with a chance to win a major. You know, with Westy, you know, if Matt Fitzpatrick putted for Lee Westwood, he'd probably have 6 or 7 majors. He was that good. He got to number 1 in the world, putting like Edward Scissorhands, you know, but it was brilliant. And he got robbed of 3 or 4 majors. You know, Darren Clarke, I went close with him a couple of times. And I was caddying for Thomas Bjorn when he left it in that bunker 3 times. You know, the Open, he had the trophy, and the Danish Lurpak butter, it slipped out of his hands and he dropped it on the 16th green. I thought about that every day for 6 months. And the very next week we played in Ireland. And he said to me, have you seen the draw for this week? I said, yeah, you're playing with Doug Sanders and John Van der Velde.
That's like a U.S. Open pairing, like where they put them all together.
Yeah. The biggest cock-ups in Open Championship history. You're in that group, mate. But yeah, that broke me out. But going back to your question, listen, I've been fortunate to win the Dubai World Championship, which is like a $3 million tournament. I've won that twice with Lee Westwood and Matt Fitzpatrick. You know, he won the PGA Championship a couple of times. Lee Westwood got to number 1 in the world. You know, there's lots of good tournaments that you've won over the years, but the one memory I'll take with me is hugging Darren Clarke on the 16th green at the K Club after they won the Ryder Cup in 2006, 6 weeks after his wife had died. And he'd just won his match and they just won the Ryder Cup. And it was like, I'm feeling emotional thinking about it now. You know, and it's 16 years ago. It's like, that is a memory that's like, cannot be beaten.
Yeah.
You know,
those moments when life meets sport. Yeah. And it kind of meant to be, that's a great memory.
I'll tell you what, there's a funny story about that week as well. And this is where honesty can sort of like get you into trouble, you know, because I'm a big believer that I've been very fortunate. I've done 15 Ryder Cups, and I'm a big believer of being honest for your teammates, protecting the team, you know. And so we go to the first morning, and you know, it's Darren Clarke and Lee Westwood are playing Phil Mickelson and Chris DeMarco, you know, and I'm walking onto that tee. I've never heard a rapturous applause as loud in my life. You know, I started crying in the middle of the first tee. And I wasn't even crying when Thomas Bjorn left it in that bunker 3 times to lose the Open, but I found myself crying. And Clarkey walked onto the tee, and I'm like, how are you going to hit this opening tee shot? You know, everybody's behind you. You lost your wife 6 weeks ago. Now you're hitting the tee shot at the Ryder Cup on the first morning. It's like, If it was me, I think I'd hit a foot behind the ball and just Swiss roll the divot just enough to spew the ball about 2 inches off the teepee. And he bombed it out there 310 yards, hit a wedge to 10 foot and made birdie. And he birdied the last to win the match against Mickelson and DeMarco. Great win. But in the afternoon, Wuzzy, Ian Woosnam, who was the captain, he brought in Sergio Garcia and Luke Donald, great pairing at the time. And he brought in Colin Montgomery to play with Westwood, give Clarke the afternoon off because he didn't want to put him through too much emotion, you know. Anyway, end of day one, it was 6-2 to Europe. Everything's going great. The next morning, it's Tiger and Jim Furyk against Westwood and Clarke. And the first few holes, you know, is it to 5 foot the first, 7 foot the second, 6 foot the third, 8 foot the fourth, 5 foot the fifth. Lee Westwood, that was, and he missed every putt, so no change there. Darren Clarke hitting it all over the place, hooking his drives, shanking his irons. I'm like, and you know what it's like when you spend 10 years with a player and 30 weeks a year, 10 hours a day. It's like being married to somebody. You know exactly what's going on in their head. And I thought, and Tiger missed a really short putt on the 9th, and Westwood and Clarke were 2 up. And all I can think is, Wuzzy has now only got like 30 minutes before he chooses his afternoon pairings. And he's probably thinking, oh, Darren Clarke, 2 up on Tiger Woods. I'll keep him playing. So we're going off the 10th tee, and I saw Peter Baker, who was Wuzzy's assistant. I said, Bakes, come here. What is it, Billy? I said, just let Wuzzy know Lee Westwood is playing like God. Darren Clarke is playing like me, and I'm shite. Right, I'll get the message back. So, anyway. Clarke and Westwood win the match against Tiger and Jim 3-2. Great win again. So I'm stood on the range. I have no idea who's playing. Then I see the giant scoreboard. Match number 1, Garcia and Donald. Match number 3, Westwood. Montgomery. No sign of Clarke. Been dropped. So the afternoon matches tee off. Clarke comes out after his extended lunch. Starts hitting a few balls. Don't even look at me. He says, then he turns to me and looks. He says, did you say something to Wuzzy? I'm like, no. Well, I didn't. I said it to Peter Baker, didn't I?
Right.
And this is great Ryder Cup captaincy and team bonding for you, because it's Wuzzy, but as bright as 2 o'clock in the morning, Clarke says, well, Wuzzy's just come up to you and said, Darren, I'm really sorry you're not playing this afternoon, but Billy says you're playing absolute shite. He didn't speak to me for the next 24 hours. I may as well have been dead in his eyes. So I had to walk into the locker room on the Sunday morning, hold my hands up and said, look, what I did yesterday I thought was for the benefit of yourself, the benefit of the team. And if you want to sack me, sack me. Well, let's get out today, win your match against Zach Johnson, win the Ryder Cup, and win it for Heather, who's his ex-wife or past wife. I said, then sack me, come on. And I picked up the bag and walked out. You know, and 3.5 hours later, we're hugging me in tears and telling me he loved me and they've won the Ryder Cup and all that. But that was the worst 24 hours of my caddying career right there. But that was just through being honest.
Yeah.
You know, what can you do?
I love that you hang your hat on that out there and in life and pass that on to your kids. I want to ask you about a couple current things, and then I want to talk about the U.S. Open briefly. Are you having fun with this Netflix series they're out recording?
I don't get involved at all.
Have they mic'd you up a little bit?
No, I don't touch it. I mean, at the match play, Poulter played Fitz. Poulter were mic'd up. Poulter's caddy was mic'd up, James. Fitz was mic'd up. I went, not for me. I ain't doing it. Because I want to be honest out there. You know, and I throw in F-bombs and C-bombs and look at that bird's big knockers over there and all that all day long.
Right.
That's probably what they'd love that. They ain't going to do me any favours.
Right.
You know, and I'll be always wary about what I'm saying, or they listen to everything I'm saying. I'm like, it's not for me, you know?
Yeah. Well, if it's going to inhibit the job you do out there.
I don't mind doing this sort of stuff, but live on the course, I want to concentrate on my job, not thinking about what everybody else is thinking about what I'm saying. That should be private on the golf course, and I don't believe in it. So,
well, let's talk about the U.S. Open a little bit. The Country Club, three of the 4 most recent major events held there. 1988 U.S. Open, won by Curtis Strange over Nick Faldo. Were you there?
I wasn't there. No.
Was it there? How about the 99 Ryder Cup? Did you caddy in that?
I did. I haven't
Who
missed
were
any
you working
Ryder Cup
for?
apart from Medina when I broke my leg. But yeah, I was working for Darren Clarke.
For Clarke. I
Yeah.
guess when you look back on that one, I mean, I know it ended with the U.S. winning. What was the fallout from the European perspective? I mean, I know. What when you look back on that?
Drink about 20 beers in the locker room and have a good time.
Yeah.
You know, you got to take your hats off to America that day. They put the pressure on the early doors, and it just snowballed and put everybody under pressure. And they went out top heavy with all the big guns. And you know, and unfortunately for our players, you know, Van der Velde, Sanderlin, and Andrew Coulter, they hadn't played a game. That was their first game in the singles, which, you know, and Coulter's playing Tiger Woods and Sanderlin's playing Phil Mickelson or whatever it was. You know, it's like it was tough for them lads, and it snowballed very quickly.
Mm-hmm.
It got a bit controversial in the end, but listen, you got to man up and just well played, you know, America. And yeah, you're obviously very disappointed for the first 20 or 30 minutes. You know, I'd be lying if there's not a few tears. You know,
Mm-hmm.
whatever happens on both sides, you know, but it was the reverse at Medina, the same scoreline.
Yeah.
You know, it was America couldn't lose, and Europe went out top heavy and put the pressure on, and then all of a sudden it's amazing when you start looking at that leaderboard. You know, it's all red, and you're like, oh my god. Or if you're an American and it's all blue, oh my god, it's all going. The pressure, your gut feeling, just you want to be sick. But you can
Mm-hmm.
only focus on your game and win your individual point. You can't be getting drawn by that. And yeah, but it was a tough week, but you know, another great contest.
Yeah. Well, so then they've had some changes to this golf course. You're going to see it, you know, in a week's time, I guess. What do you remember the last time around? How excited are you to get back on the property? What do you think
You
of the
know,
place?
funnily enough, I mean, I don't play. If I played on Saturday for the first time in 2 years, you know, I don't play much golf at all. I've played 3 or 4 times a year for the last 15, 20 years, so I'm a bit rusty. But I played the country club with Fitz 2 years ago.
Okay.
I saw some of the changes were still. There's a bit of a building site in places with a few holes, but and it's a strong golf course. It's a great golf course, and you know Fitz won the US Amateur round there
I
in
know.
2013, so he obviously likes the place. So we'll see. You know, let's hope it's just set up good, and you know there's a premium for it in fairways, and we'll see. But he keeps knocking on the door, the little fella. So let's hope he kicks one over the line soon. Let's hope it's that one. But
That'd be a good one. I mean, what's his excitement level? I mean, is he a guy that just kind of focuses one term at a time? And I know you have to. I mean, are you kind of gauging, you know, how amped up he's going to be for that week, knowing that he's the USAM champ from when the last time I was
nah,
there?
don't read anything into it. It's just another tournament, mate. Yes, it's a major championship, but it's just another tournament, you know. And it's like the USPGA there a couple of weeks ago. He had a great chance to win that. Didn't quite go his way on Sunday. Missed too many fairways, and you know you get them flying lies. It's difficult to control it, and he wasn't quite on his game on Sunday. But you know that's good experience as well. It's the first time he's had a real chance to win a major. But no, what we're getting carried away with it. Just it's just another week. Get out and do your job and do the best you can. He
Yeah,
won't get carried away, and you know I won't.
yeah.
So have a
Do
bit
you
of a laugh out there.
do you approach caddying in majors any differently than a normal tournament?
Not really. You know, sometimes I'd be lying if you know. Sometimes you know I will go out and walk the full 18 holes and look at the pin positions and stuff. Quite often at majors, but you know, apart from that, you do your own work like most of the other caddies out there. You know, it's I must admit that caddying's got you know so much easier now because the books are unbelievable. You know, the picture books are incredible. Thank God they banned the greens book, but I don't understand why they're still making them. What's everybody buying greens books for? You know, you're doing a bit of homework and doing a bit of cheating. I don't know what's going on. Why are they still selling them? I don't understand it.
I didn't
But
know
the
they
great,
were.
the yardage books are so brilliant. You can turn up at a golf tournament and play the course blind. You know, gone are the days of walking around for 7 hours with a yardage wheel and drawing your own book.
Yeah,
It's your preparation's been made a lot easier on that front.
yeah. What do you do? I was doing a speaking engagement last week for the Omaha Country Club Alumni Caddy Association, and somebody asked me a question. They're like, you know, what do you do when your player gets off track or gets on the bogey train? And I was like, well, if you know that answer, please tell me. Like, do you have anything that comes to mind? I mean, it varies from player to player.
There's not a lot you can do, is there? I mean, I try to, if they're shooting 62 or 82, I try and not let my mood change. I just try and keep, it's a boring saying there's one shot at a time, but it is, it's what's gone's gone, and that's all I'd say, Matt. What's gone's gone. Can't change that. It's in history. All you can do is, you got this chance, you got 3 or 4 chances in the next 6 holes. Let's just get it back. You try and give them a bit of a pep talk. Sometimes it might be Sergio, it might be Darren Clarke. If you tried that, they'd just either give you a right hook or tell you F off. It's like sometimes they don't want to hear it. And it's about choosing your moments to say the right thing and knowing when just to zip it and just let them get over it for a hole and then attack them, So
I was out when I was with Seamus. We played the Irish Open at Lahinch, and we got through that hole, the 5th hole, the par 3 blind over the thing, and I think
it's where all the American tourists have a hole in one, because all the caddies run across and throw it in the hole because they can't see it, thinking they're going to get a good tip.
That's a great place to do that. We were out with Matt Wallace and Dave McNeely, and they got into it on the previous hole, and they got the tee box, and Wallace was still wearing them out. And Dave said, "Hey man, can we just fucking stop that right now? Like, let's talk about it afterwards. We got to get onto this." And I'll never forget that. I mean, he's been around the block, but I was like, oh man.
My original letter that I got off Seve Ballesteros, because guess what? There were no phones or emails or text messages. It was a proper handwritten letter.
Yeah.
And it starts off by saying, "Billy, I've been watching you for a few weeks. I like your attitude as a caddy. Now these are my conditions." And it went on the next 3 paragraphs were like, you can't do this, you can't do that. You never argue with a player on the course. It's always good to talk after the round. You can't speak to the press. You can't do this. It was like a full length bollocking. And I hadn't even started the job yet. But yeah, it's always good to talk after the round. There's no point in arguing for 2 or 3 holes out there, because you're going to make 3 or 4 bogeys while you're still arguing,
Yeah. The British Open, the Open Championships at St. Andrews this year, how pumped are you for that?
It's always a great week. It's I love the Open Championship. I've been to every one since 1975. So I've done like 47 Open Championships. I've caddied in 39, I think. But I used to go there from being 9 years old. Never missed one. St. Andrews is a great town. The vibe, the buzz of the town is fantastic. The only thing that I'm a bit wary about, which upsets me, is the way technology's gone, how far the ball goes. And I go through it, and there's actually 9 par 4s you could probably drive. Given the right conditions. If you're a DJ or a Bryson or somebody that really pumps it out there, 340, 350 plus, there's 9 greens. If you got the right bounce, you could drive it on. Yeah. And that scares me. So they need to protect it with deep rough, and they need the wind. St. Andrews has been outgrown, which is very unfortunate. They're either going to have to change it, or I'd love to see them change the equipment and just bring it back a little bit.
You would would you get the ball back a little bit, or the drivers, like bring the driver's size down? I'd
rather see the ball move more. If you hit a poor shot, it used to move 15 yards on the wind, now it'll move 2.
Right.
And it just tastes too straight and it goes too far. So, shot making's done. I grew up watching brilliant shot makers. Your Lee Trevinos, your Seve Ballesteroses, and your Fred Coupleses, even Corey Pavin. I mean, great shot makers. Ian Woosnam, fantastic shot makers. Those days have done, mate. They're gone. Everybody just tees it up, bombs it. It hardly moves. It comes 340. And Bubba Watson's one of the few, maybe a Sergio Garcia, maybe, but you can count them on one hand that impressed me with shot making. And those days have gone, and that's very sad. So I think they should do something about the ball, to make it spin off line more, or like it used to do, or certainly try and take 10% off it, because some of these courses are just getting obsolete. It's a shame.
Well, I'll get you out of here. I've got a few rapid fire ones just to get your thoughts off the top of your head. I like to ask guys this a lot of times. If you're playing, all right, you're in the final round of the Open Championship, say you got a 1-shot lead, and your caddy said, "I can't go tomorrow," who would you ask to caddy for you?
Sergio Garcia.
You'd have Sergio loop for you. I love it.
Best caddy I've ever seen. And then, if he's caddying for me, I could give him the abuse back that he gave me.
I love it. What's your favorite caddy nickname or nicknames that you've encountered over the years?
There were a guy called in Europe. They called him the Seagull because he used to go around shitting on everybody. I mean, that was a classic. I mean, they call Miguel Jimenez. They call him Crime.
Yeah.
Because everybody knows that crime does not pay. There's been some good ones over the years, but the Seagulls up there were the best. I thought I loved it.
What's your favorite golf course in the world to caddy then?
I'd say my favourite golf course that I've played would be Royal Dornoch, right at the top of Scotland. It's like, it'd be 2 hours above Inverness, and it's right at the top of Scotland. Royal Dornoch would be my favourite. Muirfield's good. I like links courses. I like Royal Birkdale. And in America, I really like Sawgrass.
Yeah.
It covers all shots. You've got to shape your shots, get it down the correct half of the fairway to get the good angle to the green. It's testament to the golf course that it hasn't had to be lengthened much. Mm-hmm. So that is testament to the design of it, that it don't favour somebody who bangs it 350 yards, because the golf course hasn't changed, and that's testament to a brilliant layout.
What's your favorite on the U.S. circuit? What's your favorite city just to travel to in the U.S.?
That's a good question. I quite like the Carolinas. I like Hilton Head around there,
Okay. I like that. What about in the world? I mean, you've traveled all over. Is there one that comes to mind worldwide?
I think it's sad that we don't play many golf courses down in Australia, especially the Melbourne area, the Sandbelt. Your Royal Melbournes, your Kingston Heaths, Metropolitans, etc. There's some unbelievable golf courses there that, unfortunately, we never get to play, and they'd be up there with the best courses in the world in Australia. And unfortunately, there's no big tournaments down there. Obviously, they play the President's Cup down there, but incredible golf courses that I'd like to see an Australian Open, an Australian Masters, being brought onto maybe the deeper European Tour and play for some decent money, because, that's fantastic golf courses down there.
Yeah, longest flight I've ever taken in my life there, but I do. It is worth it. I feel like Jeff Ogilvy's gonna figure that out for us. He's really doing a good job down there.
Yeah, Jeff and Mike Clayton are quite clued up down there.
What about you like a pint though? What's your favorite when you're done with a stretch on the road? Like, what's your go-to beer when you get home? What's your favorite beer?
I love a draft San Miguel.
San Miguel.
But it is rocket fuel. It sends you crazy, When I'm in America, I just stick to a bottle of Heineken. But San Miguel or a Peroni back home. Yeah, it's you don't need too many of them to send you crazy, but I'm crazy enough without them anyway. So.
Yeah. Well, hey man, thanks for taking a little time out of your day. Play well this week and at the U.S. Open there as well. I really appreciate it.
All right, John. Thanks, pal.
Cheers.
See you, boys.
Just a reminder that this Under the Strap podcast is presented by the Therabody Theragun. We'll be back soon with another podcast, so please subscribe. And in the meantime, make sure to follow the Caddy Network on all your social media channels. I'm host John Rathouz. Thank you for listening.